Okay, welcome back to the next part of the video. In the last video, we brought the XR2 through the atmosphere here at Earth to do the atmospheric braking, and that got us captured and brought our orbit, our trajectory around the Earth all the way down to 130 kilometers. It's actually been over 2 weeks since I recorded the last part, so I don't remember exactly what I did for getting the altitudes where it is right now, but I can tell from this 132 kilometers that I'm planning on landing immediately, as opposed to spending any time in orbit. I would have to be up around 200 kilometers or higher if I were thinking that I would be spending any time in orbit. But that's not surprising. I mean, coming back from Venus, and I wasn't planning on docking with the ISS or anything like that. So let's just take a look here. We've got 27 days of locks plus a few hours. APU's fine. We've got plenty of RCS and plenty of main fuel for the remainder of the mission. So we did pretty well, really. If I bring up this view, can bring up burn time calculator and see exactly how much fuel we've got left, although let me put in the RCS as well. So we have almost 800 meters a second left, which that's more than we started with, which is pretty interesting. That just means, we burned through all the locks, obviously 425 days worth from the point that we left Earth, went all the way out to Venus and came back around. So we burned through, or we used so much of our locks that we've lightened the mass of the vessels enough that we've gained quite a bit of delta V, in fact. Let's bring up base sync and see how things look, although I can tell from my orbital plane here that I'm never going to be passing close to Cape Canaveral. Let's just put it in here and see what we have. So target Cape Canaveral, and we switch the equator direct mode over to direct, and we want closest passage, which we already have. I can see here in base sync that on my next orbit, or this orbit that I'm on, I'm only going to pass 2,300 kilometers from the base, and then it just gets worse as I go forward. And most likely the closest it would ever be would be something like 2,200 kilometers, so we would have quite a bit of cross range to burn. And I can see in base sync that I would require 100 seconds of burn time using the full power of the main engines in order to bring the distance down to 0. That's too much. I'm not going to do it. Normally I like to get the distance to the base down to close to 0. That way I can get really close to the base, and then then turn on the attitude hold and just come down through the atmosphere really aggressively. But due to the amount of burn time that would be required to bring the distance down, I'm not going to do that. It's just a big waste of fuel, and I don't think I have that much fuel anyway. Let me check. No, I've only got a total burn time of 27 seconds, so I couldn't do that even if I wanted to. So what I'm going to have to do instead is just glide through the atmosphere to bring the off-base distance down. So let's go ahead and warp time forward, get over to halfway point. And we should be getting close. Yep, now the numbers are
rotation
going to be going backwards, so we're halfway around. Since I'm already facing prograde, I'll just go ahead and use the RCS to bring the altitude down instead of bothering to go retrograde and use the full power, well, use the main engines rather. Obviously I wouldn't have to use the full power the main engines, but I could obviously go retrograde. Could also open the retro doors, but I'm not going to do that either, since we're as low as we are.
Translation.
Just a little bit of reverse translation. And I'm only going to bring the PEA down to like 55 kilometers, something like that. I definitely don't need to bring it all the way to 0. The lower I bring the PEA, the more, the sooner I will get to entry interface. And I'm already at 100. I'm only at 132 kilometers to start with, so I'm going to get to entry interface fairly quickly. And 2,000 kilometers worth of cross range isn't all that much, so we don't need to worry about getting down to we got to get down to around 70 kilometers or so before we're going to have any steering, but we don't need to get to that too quickly. So we'll go with something like that, about 55 kilometers. And now let's warp time forward until the altitude is down to a point where I can steer the vessel. And at 100 kilometers, I'm going to go ahead and turn the APU on with Control A. And close the radiator, which I don't remember what the hotkey is. Is it Control R? No. Alt R? Yeah. I'll hit 10x to speed that up. And turn the APU back off. And fast forward time now. Again, I got to get down to about 70
Mach
kilometers or
27
something like
plus.
that. Won't really have much steering until then. $8,000 kilometers out.
Mach 26.
Alright, let's go with that. Now let me switch views. And I will start with base sync for now. And go ahead and target Cape Canaveral again, even though it says it's targeted. I just don't trust it. Turn the APU, put in full up elevator.
Rotation.
And a little bit of center of gravity shift, just to get the AOA to about 15 degrees. Seems to work best for the XR2. And of course you don't have to go by that number. You can always just get a feel for it with the joystick and the controls, but I find consistently with the XR2 that when I'm doing it by feel, I notice that I'm always right at 15 degrees on the AOA, so I feel like I might as well just set it there to begin with. Alright, now I can turn that off. And let's bring up the surface HUD. And I'm just going to watch the distance to the base until it gets down to about 100 kilometers or so. Then I'll recenter the center of gravity and turn off or recenter the trim as well. And this irritating thing that base sync does, I actually contacted the developer of base sync through Orbiter forum and showed him a couple of my videos where this is constantly resetting.
Mach 25.
And basically he said that he hasn't actually used this MFD himself in like 2 or 3 years, and he doesn't remember a lot about it, but said he might take a look at it, but he really just wants to rewrite the whole MFD. But wanting to do things and having the time to do them are, two different things, so I'm not holding my breath on getting a new base sync MFD. There may be a way to use IMFD for this purpose. I know it has like a base approach program, so that's probably what I should look at using instead of this. Okay, we're only 6,500 kilometers out from the base.
Mach 24.
This really isn't as bad as I remember it being, as far as doing the cross range with the atmosphere. It seems to me like it used to just take a really long time to do this, but
Mach 23.
vertical speed and altitude's getting down there a bit, so I'm going to roll out a little bit. And that distance is coming down very quickly, so I'm going to be wanting to, whatever happened to an AP1 now.
On.
Don't want to climb out too far. Okay, go ahead and center the center of gravity. And now I'm going to center the elevator trim. And we can turn the APU back off for now.
APU offline.
Okay, don't really need base sync anymore. So let me bring up aero brake on that side. Target Cape Canaveral. And here, before too long, I'm gonna roll back up to, level and kind of see how things are looking, and then we'll engage the attitude hold and coast on over to the base. I don't want to engage the attitude hold too soon, though, because it will take an extra long time to get to the base, and I'm impatient. So I'm just going to roll heads up. And I can see my alignment with, let me go ahead and bring up these views. I can see my alignment with aero brake MFD now. And obviously based on this trajectory, I'm blowing past the base, going halfway around the planet again. But that'll all change once I engage the attitude hold. But when I'm still as much as 5,000 kilometers out, I don't want to engage it yet. I can, and it's safer, because we'll have a more gradual approach into the atmosphere if I were to engage the attitude hold now. But again, I'm just a little impatient. I'd like to get closer to the base, hold on to this velocity for a little while longer. But we don't want to get too close. Get too close, then we come in too steep and burn up. So we'll engage it, not too long. And keep in mind, when I go from Cape Canaveral to Wide Awake, I get all the way up to the point where I'm only 3,000 kilometers from Wide Awake. And in those videos, in those missions, I'm traveling over 11 kilometers per second, so I can get quite close to the base here without having to worry too much about having too steep of an angle. Just gonna roll over here a bit to get rid of that vertical speed. Just basically do a full 180 roll, or 360 rather, because there goes the vertical speed. It's basically 0. So now I'll just keep rolling. And we don't really need map MFD anymore. Let's bring up glide slope. And I like this view here. Nope. This one. Keep rolling. Didn't mean to stop rolling. And I'm just putting in a little bit of extra bank to keep the vertical speed from climbing too high. And it will also help my range here. Or not range, but rather my, off base distance. So CFG, I can pick the runway, PR, which is previous runway, NR, which is next runway. I don't really care if it's 15 or 33. That's just which direction I'm going to come in at, and I can land either direction. I don't really care. I will change the hack to open so that it doesn't have me trying to do one of those big loops around Cape Canaveral. And we're 4,000 kilometers out. We can get a little closer than that. Still putting in a bit of roll again, just for the sake of the vertical speed, and then this number here shows that I'm a bit off, so once that's 0, 0, then I'll need to roll the other direction if I want to maintain good alignment with the base. Range is down to 3,800 kilometers. Okay, that's now 0, 0, so we need to preferably roll center, close to center. And that will have us on a good alignment. And just not too much longer, we'll engage the attitude hold. Just get a little bit closer first. So I need to go back to this view and change over to AOA, and I'm just going to guess that it's going to be about 40 degrees. I won't know for sure until I engage it, and I'll know by looking at aerobrake MFD exactly what it needs to be. Go ahead and put in a bunch of bank to the left for a moment to bring that vertical speed down. And once the vertical speed is near 0, I want to get a little closer yet. Yeah, that's okay. We're close enough. Okay. Now let's go with that.
APU auto
Engage,
start.
and we'll see
Center
over
of
here
gravity shift information.
in aerobrake
APU fuel 70%.
exactly what we need to do. See, 45 is a bit much, so by tapping 8, I decrease the AOA a bit, and that looks better right there. This shows I'm coming in a little long. That's alright. That just means I need to do a bit more braking here in a little while as I get closer in. Just increase the AOA a little bit more, and that'll
Mach 22.
have me coming up to the base. And that's about it. I just have to glide now. And it shouldn't take too long because we are only 2,600, 2,500 kilometers out. Actually, I think I engaged a little too soon. Could have warped time forward a little bit farther, but it'll be alright. According to Aerobrake, we're going to land in 800 seconds, which is more than 10 minutes. It's like, was that like 14, 15 minutes? Turn the APU off for now.
Mach 21.
Can bring up map MFD over here to get a better idea of the position. Looks like we're getting a little off track. It's not too much, but I can put in a bit of banking, and that should help get me more aligned according to glide slope. And there's a bit of discrepancy between glide slope and Aerobrake
20.
MFD. According to Aerobrake MFD, you know, I'm coming in south of the base, but I believe these actually do agree, because this is the dead center of the base, and I don't want to arrive dead center at the base. I want to be off enough so that I can land on the runway, and I think that's basically what glide slope is helping me determine more accurately than what I can get with just Aerobrake. And it looks like I'm banking the wrong direction. Just let me go this way.
Mach 19.
Okay, we're only 1,500 kilometers out, so we're getting pretty close.
Mach 18.
Put in just a little bit more.
Warning, center of gravity
AOA.
shift offline.
Turn the APU back on for that.
Center of gravity shift online.
About like that should be good. If you have it just a little bit long, you'll actually
Mach 17.
pass over the runway, pass over the base at a higher altitude, and that might be preferable, you know, if you want to have your sonic boom occur when you're higher up in the atmosphere as opposed to, you know, down lower. It would be more realistic to have the, you know, to become subsonic when you're up higher. A lot of times I'll blow right across the state of Florida, you know, and have the sonic boom down at a fairly low altitude,
Mach
which
16.
would probably shatter windows and freak people out in real life. See, where alignment's pretty good, so we can take out some of that bank. We're only 900 kilometers out.
Information. APU fuel 60%. Mach 15.
Just zeroing out my bank.
Mach 14.
Turn the APU off again for a moment. Just save some of that fuel because it doesn't run very long in this configuration. $650 kilometers out. Bring up map MFD, we can zoom in, get a good look where we're at.
Mach 13.
Temperature, no problem.
Mach 12.
Putting in just a little bit of bank. It's never clear to me, at least it's not crystal clear to me, which way I need to bank. Okay, I am banking the right way.
Mach 11.
So I guess if this little arrow down here, if it's showing that it's to the left of the center line, then you need to bank left. Okay, we're about 200 and close to 300 kilometers out. And speed's coming down, everything's where it needs to be.
Mach 10. Warning, center of gravity shift offline.
Go ahead and turn the APU on, put in a little more,
Mach 9.
put in a little more AOA just to
Center of gravity
brake
shift
here a little harder now that we're
online.
getting close.
Mach 8. Mach 7.
And we'll disengage here in a moment and take over control.
Off.
So let's turn RCS off
Mach
in
6.
preparation for that. And just for the fun of it, I'll see if I can get the sonic boom
Mach
to occur
5.
up higher this time.
Mach 4. Mach 3.
Okay, good enough. Zero out the trim. And I'm just gonna turn around. Yeah, we'll go this way.
Mach 2.
So we're at almost 20 kilometers. And we should be subsonic here before too long.
Information. APU fuel 50%. Subsonic.
There we are. Not sure if that was high enough to not disturb everybody, but... Okay, now just glide over to the runway. I got a down pitch of 20 degrees, which I believe is pretty standard for dead stick landings. Clear that and start over. Okay, I'm not quite over far enough. Couldn't quite tell where the runway was at until the lights came in view. So I need to bank more over to the right to get in front of the runway. And once we're down on the ground and we have wheel stop, that will conclude this series, going from Earth over to Venus for a sling and back around to the Earth. About a 425-day trip according to our mission elapsed timer. And I do want to...
Information. APU fuel 40%.
I do want to do this mission again at a later date, but I'm going to do a slightly different version of it.
5,000.
Almost in front of the runway, so I'm just increasing my
4,000.
pitch a little bit, start banking a little bit.
$3,000.
Alignment feels pretty good.
2,000.
Thank God for those runway lights, though.
You
Wouldn't
are
be able to see a
cleared
thing
to
without them.
land. 1,000. 900. 800. 700. 600. 500. 400. 300. Warning, gear is up. Down.
No, I didn't forget the gear. I was just
Warning,
waiting.
gear is up.
I like to be under 175
Gear
meters a
down
second.
and locked. 100.
I just watch the vertical
75.
speed. Throughout the air brake, I'm going a little
50.
quick.
40. 30.
Oops, I did not mean to flare that much.
20. 15. 10.
Nice soft
8.
touchdown.
6. 5. 3. 1. Wheels down.
Hugging the left side of the runway there a lot, but
100 knots.
that's okay. Touchdown at 1.3 meters a second,
Wheel stop.
and that's wheel stop. So APU off.
Using
cooling
external
on.
O2. External cooling online.
And that's the completion of our mission. 425 days, 7 hours, and we'll call it like 36 minutes. Something like that. Okay, well, I hope you enjoyed this mission, this series. Just again, trying to do something a little bit different. Gone to Mars a couple of times. I've gone to the outer planets in the Voyager mission. I've also gone to Saturn and Jupiter a couple times in the XR5. So I thought it was time to maybe try to do some exploration of the inner planets. Mercury is also on my to-do list, but before I head off to Mercury, I want to think about how I want to go about doing that, because I don't necessarily want to just go at Mercury with no regard for fuel cost, such as using the Aero Freighter, which would be a cool mission because using the Aero Freighter is always fun. But I want to think about how I can go to Mercury without the enormous fuel cost, because Mercury is very difficult to get to, because by the time you arrive, you're traveling at a very, very high velocity, and the amount of braking that you need is pretty absurd. I've done it before I was doing any orbiter recordings. So I don't know what's coming up next. I haven't really given it any thought if I'm going to do the next version of this flight first, or if I'm going to go to Mercury next. I want to go back to Mars. It's been almost a whole year since I did my last Earth to Mars video, and I've learned a lot since then. So I want to redo that flight, and we'll just kind of see. We'll go from there. Alright, that's going to wrap it up. If you enjoyed this part of the series, or if you enjoyed the series overall, leave your comments down below, and I will see you in the next video.